Welcome back to Empowered Esquire TV. We are here with episode two, everyone, of our Be Empowered series. Now, in case you are new to this series, allow me to welcome you. I am Felicia, aka the Empowered Esquire. Here on this channel, we believe in empowering you with knowledge and inspirational information. So I curated a group, if you will, of people whom I find to be just so absolutely amazing and inspiring, and reached out to them and said, hey, would you be interested in coming onto the channel and sharing some of your story with us? And graciously, we've gotten quite a few folks who will be joining us. So for episode 2 today, we have with us, I call him the YouTube GOAT, but hey, I'm sure everyone else has their own acronyms for him, right? But today we have the Information Man. So without further ado, here he is, everyone. Information Man, welcome.
Hey, thank you. The Empower Esquire, thank you. Ever since you got in contact with me and you said you wanted me to come on board for one of your episodes, I felt very honored and I was looking forward to this. So I'm here and I want to thank everybody that's out there watching and people that will watch this on the replay. And how you doing, my sister?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot tell you just how absolutely inspired I've been watching your channel, how fascinating I find your ability to merge the music and the visuals and the information. I mean, it's just so seamless and it's such an art form and you do it so effortlessly. It must be a natural talent. So I know that everyone, it has to be, right? Because it's not easy. You make it look easy, but it's not.
Oh, no, it's not.
So I'm sure everyone here is super excited to kind of get into it. So I'm just going to dive right into some of my questions for you. So my first question would be, what made you come to YouTube?
Wow, that's a very good question. I've been asked that before. My journey on YouTube has so many different parts to it because originally I had a good friend of mine by the name of Lion's Den, and we used to be a fixture on some of the internet radio programs. So we would call in. There were a couple of personalities that we would call in and give our opinions. And we just became a fixture on the internet in terms of opinionation, giving opinions on social issues that were taking place. Then he came up with the idea to get a blog talk radio program. And I would join him as a co-host on there. And we would just talk about a lot of stuff, politics, social issues, especially those issues that most solicit the emotions of Black people. And so that's kind of how I got my start doing in that area. And then one day I've been on YouTube for a long time. So I always was a person that enjoyed watching YouTube content, right? So I've been on here for a long time as a person that supported content. And then someday the light switch turned on and said, man, you need to make a YouTube channel, because I did not like a lot of the narratives that you normally get on your mainstream, whether it be radio or television. I just, I felt they weren't telling it from a point of view that everyday people could understand and could relate to. So I wanted to have a voice. I wanted to have a purpose on this platform. A lot of people get on these platforms and they use it for, I believe personally, not all, but some, they use it in ways that can be destructive to our community. Whereas I wanted to use this to have that voice to awaken people, to educate people, to empower people, since your name is the Empowered Esquire TV, and to get things off my chest. It was an outlet for me to get a lot of things off my chest that was bothering me in this society. And from doing so, it allowed me to connect with a lot of great people like yourself. And it's given me a voice to a certain degree.
Sorry, I took a sip of my sparkling water.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
So when you speak about the traditional narratives that we usually see in the news and mainstream media, that was one of the things that I first noticed about your channel and the way that you deliver your information. So anyone can kind of get a news story and just regurgitate it. And a lot of people on YouTube do that, right?
Yes.
But when you take these news stories, you tell them from a different perspective. And I can tell that it requires a different level of preparation and research and all of that. And I think something that's missing from the space very often is the research, the effort, and the preparation before you bring the content to the people. I'm not
Yes.
sure if people really realize how much that translates to the viewers. As a viewer, I can watch information, man, and I can tell how much effort, preparation, research went into everything that you do. I can see that, I can feel that, I can tell, you know? And so when you talk about why you came to this space, you're doing that. And I hope you know that. You are doing
I
that
hope so.
and more with your content.
Right.
I love the different perspectives you bring. I love that you're not afraid to discuss things that are controversial, because that's the next thing about the world and the age that we're living in. It can make you shell shocked. It can make you afraid to have an opinion because you don't want to have the wrong opinion, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
so, with that being said, I'd like to kind of hear your perspective on what do you advise people to do, our viewers, if they want to share their opinions, but they're concerned about having an opinion that might get them canceled?
Well, see, this is the thing. You got to have a fearless attitude. You can't just say, well, if I share this opinion, I'm going to get canceled. If you think like that, you've already lost. When I came on to YouTube, I didn't have that. I didn't think like that. And I understand that there's certain rules on YouTube, certain things you can't say. And so what I do is I work around it. But I got to be honest with you, Empower Esquire TV. I think that we are able to speak our minds a little bit more than what you see people on mainstream TV, because they got to concern themselves with their executives, their producers, their writers. They got to concern themselves with the advertisement. And on YouTube, if you got a monetized channel as I have, you speak your mind and that video either gets demonetized or it don't. So when I open up my camera and I study and I research a particular topic, I don't have to worry about some producer or writer saying you can't say this and you can't say that. Now, we know that YouTube has certain words that you don't want to say. So I'm still able to say what people understand what I'm saying and work around those words, right? So there's a science to how you can be able to speak your mind on YouTube and work around some things. But I don't think we on social media, those of us who are on social media, I don't think that we're as pent down as we think we are as people in mainstream, which is why, if you think about it, the Empower Esquire TV, most young people and most people are gravitating to get their information from from platforms like YouTube. If I'm not mistaken, you got Don Lemon, the whole CNN, they have their prime time. From what the last time I heard, they're struggling to keep 1 million people watching primetime news because people want to get a different perspective that relates to them. And I always say this on my channel. I want to give you a perspective that's around the block, down the corner, down the street, right? I want to sound like someone that's in your community who's going to say the things that you really want to say, but you may not have a platform at the time to be able to say it. So I think there's power in what we're doing, because we got 70% of younger people who are on YouTube watching either YouTube or TikTok. They're not watching the mainstream. So this is really it. They're watching us. We're getting the eyeballs. No matter how little or big of people are watching you, you still are getting the eyeballs from mainstream, which is why mainstream is trying to bring themselves to where we are. So I think we are in a more powerful position.
I agree with that. I think people online do have more freedom than, of course, someone on your regular CNN or MSNBC or Fox or any of these. And yes, those large media outlets, they are dying. I don't know if I'm sure you probably have because he's so popular, but I don't know if you're familiar with Russell Brand here on YouTube. But he's about 5 million, I think, subscribers in. And he's kind of that same vein of taking the news and giving a different perspective. And the interesting thing about it is the perspective of a lot of your non-traditional media here online. Some of
Yes.
it isn't even necessarily that opinionated. Some of it is really just impartial, and it kind of sheds light on the fact that mainstream media has stepped away from impartiality. I mean, some people are really just approaching the news in an impartial way and telling both sides of it. And mind you, I think anyone that is denying that mainstream media is no longer impartial has, like, I don't know if they're missing brain cells or
Right.
what, but mainstream media is no longer impartial, right? CNN leans to one side, Fox and everyone else leans to another side, MSNBC leans to another side, right? Everyone has their side they lean to, and
Yes.
when they give you the news, it's totally catered to the side that they're leaning towards.
Right. But this is the difference. They do give you catered news, but they do not go deeper into the issue. So, like, for example, you see this all the time. We've done some shows together. Those of us on social media will read the story that the news puts out there, but then we'll do research and say, let's go a little bit deeper into this situation with this young lady or this young man. Let's go deeper. So we'll be sniffing around to go deeper and deeper into to find out more information, and then we'll give you that context that sometimes mainstream media won't go that deep. So, just for example, when you look at what's happening in Mississippi, right? How much of the mainstream media is getting deeper into the governor of Mississippi and how there's been some racial animosity towards black leaders in Mississippi, and they have basically ciphered money away from their capital city, Jackson. So they'll touch on it, but I can go deeper into it, right? Because mainstream media doesn't want to get controversial. They want to stay right down the line, right? To make you think that they are impartial.
Right. I agree. They want to stay away from controversy. And, when we see the things that are happening in places like Mississippi and kind of similar with what was happening in Michigan and also what happened in Newark, New Jersey, I'm sure you're aware of all of the similarities there, right? You see a
Yes.
lot of reluctance to go, as you said, deeper and kind of figure out, well, what's underneath all of these things? You know what I mean? And so the next kind of level to that is when you do go deeper in a lot of these issues, you end up discovering things that are sometimes unsettling, right?
Yes.
And so, what would be your advice on dealing with, that feeling? Because ignorance is bliss. Let's be real. When you really start to dig deeper and discover some things that are underlying a lot of the issues that we see, it can be depressing. So what do
Right.
you recommend as far as expanding your mind, learning, taking in content like Information Man and all these other media outlets that go deeper, but not getting depressed and downtrodden about it?
Well, first of all, you've got to, before you open up or crack open a YouTube channel, you've got to be honest with yourself. Can you handle certain content? That's why sometimes people, when they get on YouTube, they will change their content and realize that the content that they were doing before really, it wasn't their passion. If you're not passionate about this, then it is going to have more of an effect on you. It doesn't, what affects me is hearing stories in which you have, for example, youth, minors, you have terrible things that are happening to people, women, men. Those are the things that I hate, especially when it comes to the black community. I hate hearing incidents in which a black man was harmed by someone that's an officer of the law, or a black woman is harmed by an officer of the law, or even black people harming one another, right? So all of that does bother me. But because I'm passionate about trying to get that perspective that you don't get from mainstream to the people in the way that I do it, my passion overrides me from becoming depressed. And then simply when I turn the camera off, I try to enjoy life and do things, listening to music, do things to kind of get away from it all. So you got to give yourself a break on YouTube. And, you got to give yourself a break. You got to rejuvenate yourself. But don't do content that you're either not passionate about. And if you go into this kind of content, you need to know yourself. Can I handle some of the depressing stories? And I can handle it because of the kind of work that I do. I've been around very unfortunate circumstances with people. So I've kind of built for this to a certain degree.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight. I want to say hello to some of the folks in the chat. Hello to Gina Gom. Hello to Miss Frugal. Hello to Naps. Hello to Let Me See Your Transcript. Hello to Doug, and hello to Tone Bella, and hello to everyone joining. As Diva would say, from the bushes, right? I love you all. I appreciate you all, and it is so important for you to be here. Many years from now, and this is the next thing about this YouTube stuff, y'all. Many years from now, when we are all gone, someone will find Information Man online, and they might stumble across this interview, right? And they may get a gem of information or advice that changes their life. So you being here and us being here means more than you could ever know.
Well, can I touch on that? I'm
Yes,
glad that
yes,
you
go
said what
ahead.
you just said. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine by the name of Yalpo. He has a new book that's just come out, a sci-fi book, a black sci-fi book about melanin, and I'll be interviewing him on my channel, I believe, next week. I wanted to just put this out there. I think our people and anybody of any race, but especially black people, because some of the things that I've seen, unfortunately, with the whole gender war stuff that you see on YouTube in these spaces, you need to be very mindful of your digital reputation. There's two reputations. You have the reputation that people have of you and your reputation, your principles, and how these people see you. You have a reputation in the community based on how people see you and what their view of you are and how you carry yourself in the community. But then there's a digital reputation, and that's the same thing. It's going to be how people think of you. So when people say my name, I want people to come away when they hear the name Information Man and say, hey, that's the guy who, when we go to his channel, he's empowering people. We're learning from him. He's not hating on people, but he's being honest about issues that sometimes we don't want to hear, that we don't want to deal with. But man, he's honest. He's telling the truth. And we're learning something from this brother. I want to have because when you pass away and you leave this third dimension, people are going to remember the last thing you did, or they're going to remember your content. So if I got up on YouTube and spent all my time talking nasty about black women and black men who don't deserve to be talked to, nasty, you know what I mean? And I'm just a ratchet individual arguing and fighting with people, doxing people all over YouTube. When I pass away, what's the reputation I have digitally? That digital imprint will be on these streets forever, and people will say, well, that's what Information Man. He was a hater. He fighting guys. He fighting women. He's screaming and yelling. Unprofessional, right? So when I do YouTube, as long as I have, that was one of the things I was very mindful that I did not want to have a bad digital reputation, you see? Because some people who do that kind of content, where we call it ratchet content, believe me, when you're doing that, and you're getting into this beefing with your own people, you're leaving a bad digital record of your reputation for the whole world to see for the time immemorial. That's what I wanted to say there.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have lost the distinction between public conversation and private conversation. Because we're in this age of social media, we've lost, and it is an important distinction, y'all. The biggest thing that Information Man said when he said the gender wars and the beefing and the once upon a time, we understood that those conversations were private conversations. Once upon a time, we understood that this man, woman, black family, this whole discussion is a private conversation.
Yes.
And once upon a time, we understood that. Nowadays, we don't. So now you have people who have an entire channel built on bashing black men or an entire channel built on bashing black women. And as the Information Man and I said, years from now, when you look them up, that will be their legacy. Their entire legacy will be, well, I spent all day online talking about how white women are better than black women because black women are fat. Or I spent all my time online talking about how white men are better than black men because white men are rich. Or whatever these different, very generalized opinions are. Because usually these opinions are so generalized that they don't even make sense, right? So that kind of leads me into my next segue, that distinction between public conversation and private conversation. Information Man, how do you navigate that on your show? Have you ever had topics that you thought, you know what, this actually is not for the internet?
I don't, on my channel, I'm never going to do a show. You're never going to see a show, and you never have seen a show on my channel where I bring a group of black men together with the agenda to rag on black women, or with the agenda to just simply trash the black community for no apparent reason. Right now, you may see me talk about a particular issue that I think is ratchet. On my second channel, the Information Man podcast, I've talked about Bishop Lamar Whitehead. There's some things about him that I find a little questionable, allegedly. So sometimes I'm going to critique our people. I have no cut card, the Empire Esquire TV. That's one of the things I pride myself on. I will talk about black people when they're wrong. I will definitely get on white people when they're wrong, men, women. I'll talk about everybody when they are wrong and critique what it is that they're doing that is wrong. Especially people who try to claim a standard that they have, and they try to say that you got to be up to that standard, and then you find out that they're not to that standard, right? But to just to do a show where I'm just ragging on black men and black women for no apparent reason, you're never going to see that. Now, I've been a part. See, I'm an honest broker here. I've been a part of panels in the past with other guys who have talked like that, where it's an opinionated panel where I'm giving my opinion. Now, I've been on panels where guys will say, burn the black community, right? It's not going anywhere because women are raising the kids, and that's why the boys are all this and that. And then I'll say to them, well, what are you doing to change that as an individual? Oh, it's not my responsibility to take care of the men's kids, right? Then I'll say, well, would you like to get involved in supporting an organization that's helping black kids, like my man George Makeham's Urban Nerds Worldwide? So if you can't physically do the job, you can support an organization. You can do that. And when you talk to people, this is how you neutralize a lot of this shit. When you really hold people to the fire, hold their feet to the fire, that's when it gets very quiet, like a rat pissing on. You can hear a rat pissing on cotton. Because you find out that this is just talk, entertainment talk. They're not really about doing anything. They just want to hear themselves complain about what the problems are in the community, which they're not willing themselves to do anything to help in any manner. So I've been around people who talk like that on platforms in the past. I've had debates with people. I've had guys label me. People have labeled me on YouTube as pro-black or B1. You know what's funny about this? When I cracked over my YouTube channel, I never gave myself a label. I just started talking about issues that I felt mattered. And because my content does slant more towards a black audience and empowering a black audience, people just kind of labeled me, info is pro-black. As if being pro-black is negative. That's the thing that kills me as the Empower Esquire. Black people themselves on YouTube, on social media, or YouTube in specific, we've gotten to the point, this is how you can tell we've got some problems. And I look at this from a psychological point of view because of the kind of work that I do. We've gotten to the point that anything that we label as black empowerment, that's a negative now. And I know because there's been people within those movements that have kind of let people down. But it's kind of scary that we take that as a negative now versus we have no problem with calling each other the N-word. It's crazy.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. So there's a couple things you mentioned that I want to touch on. So the first thing I want to mention is when you said that pro-black is seen as a bad thing now. There's so many layers to that. So here's the thing. A lot of people don't even truly know the history of the words that they use.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up pretty much alone. I grew up as an only child, although technically I have siblings. And so for me, my siblings and my company was books. So I read a lot and wrote a lot, and I learned the importance of words. So when you use the term pro-black, what people don't realize is it's not a term that is exclusive. And what I mean by that is if someone is pro-black, meaning that they are pro the proliferation, the progress, the upward mobility of Black people, it does not mean that they are anti-white or anti-Asian or anti-Hispanic. It's not a term of exclusivity. So you can be pro-black and still, want other races and ethnicities to flourish and do wonderful too. It does not mean one or the other. The next thing to it is people tend to connect pro-black to the Black Panthers and the Black Panther Party and still not even understand what they're saying. Because even the Black Panther Party themselves, in their motto, they would say, power to the Black people, power to the yellow people, power to the white. Like they had the same concept that each person should be empowering their roots, their group, their
Mm-hmm.
ethnic belonging. It was never an idea of I'm for Black people progressing, but I want all other people to just kind of be decrepit and desolate. That was never
Right.
the idea.
Right. But that's historically the way things go. My sister, is that anytime that Black people choose to do something to empower themselves, whether a word that we come up with or anything, for some reason, other groups and other people, even within our own group, they will find a problem with that and a negative with that. And I think on a certain pathology level, psychological level, because Black people have been taught to hate ourselves, we internalize that and then we project that hate onto ourselves. And that's why I believe personally you have some of the problems that you have on these spaces. And another area that we failed to address too in the community is mental health. There's a lot of people on YouTube. I don't know everybody, but I believe that there are some Black people who are on these spaces who do have some mental health problems. And this is why it's a waste of time to be on panels arguing with people who you don't even know if this person has problems. Because I do see a pattern where people are bringing their problems to YouTube and projecting in their anger, which tells me they really should be getting help for their problems in their community. And so this is one of the things that I believe is a problem with our people, that we have failed. We have not failed, but some of us have not taken the opportunity to get real solid help and deal with our real issues. And so we take it out on each other on YouTube. And then we get jealous of people because they're rising up, their channels are rising up and what have you. And you can also tell by, and I know this is unpopular to say this, but you can tell by what our people tend to gravitate towards that they'll watch. I know for a fact on my channel, and you probably have noticed this too, that if you do something educational, something that Black people really need, that can help them like right now, those types of videos get less views, less traction, less excitement. Opposed to the videos that me and you have done together on my channel, whether it be about R. Kelly or whoever, which really charges everyone's juices and they come over. And I appreciate the support, but I wish our people would support the educational content that can help you like right now.
Speaking of the types of content that can help us right now, in your opinion, Information Man, if you could have anyone, meaning you could bring anyone in the world to kind of present to the Black community, if we could do, you remember Dave Chappelle did that that skit where he did like the draft for the races, right? And each race had like that. Let's
Yeah.
say we had a legit Black council and you could bring anyone in front of the council to speak to us and get us together, alive or passed away. Who would you bring?
Well, there's two people that I respect the most, and they're of the same, sort of the same similar cloth. I think Malcolm X, because of where he was. I think when I look at Malcolm X, I'm talking about the Malcolm X who made his transition into Mecca, and he had moved away from the Nation of Islam, and he was beginning to make some really serious moves internationally. And I believe personally that's why they had to take him out of the paint, because Malcolm X was transitioning to a level that we would have been incredible to see him bringing brothers and sisters in the diaspora and around the world, bringing us all together. And I think that's what they were most afraid of. I think a lot of people respected Malcolm X, whether they were a Muslim or not. He commanded people's attention and his words were of power. And most importantly, he was respected and revered because he was a man that came from the very streets that the people that he was talking to could relate to him. So I would definitely bring Malcolm X, because I think Malcolm X had, when he would talk, he always had a solution to what our problems were. See, he's one of the few leaders. There's been a lot of black leaders, black female leaders, black male leaders who have said a lot of great things, but not too many gave you the solution to the problem with it. Malcolm X would give you the solution along as well with what the problem is. He could break down the diagnosis and then give you the cure to it. And I think we need someone like that to shake us up, wake us up again, because I think a lot of us, not all of us, but some of us are kind of sleepwalking. Khalid Muhammad, I met him personally years ago before he passed away. When I was in college, I met him in Berkeley, California, at one of the libraries in Berkeley where I was working at, in one of the schools out there. I was working because I have a lot of experience working with youth. And I met him. He was getting ready to prepare to speak, and he was very humble. I shook his hand. He said, "Brother, come on out to the discussion tonight, to the speech tonight." And I liked him because he was fierce. He was unapologetic, and he would tell it like it is. Those are the people that I sort of gravitate towards. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for Dr. King and many other black leaders, Shirley Chisholm. There's so many sisters out there that I also have a lot of respect for. IDB Wells. I grew up reading a lot of literature about IDB Wells, so I have a lot of respect for her. Harriet Tubman. There's so many people that have had an impact on me.
Being that you mentioned the great Malcolm X first, I'd like to share with everyone one of his most famous quotations and one of my favorite Malcolm X quotations, because I think it speaks to the essence of who he is, despite the way that he is sometimes portrayed, right? And that's another conversation. So I love when Malcolm said, "I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it is for or against. I'm a human being first and foremost, and as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole."
Right.
That is not the Malcolm X that mainstream society might have you believe existed, right? You
Right.
might think that he felt all of these horrible, violent things towards other races, and that was just not the essence of who he was. He was someone who believed in truth, and the truth of the matter was, especially during his time, that Black people were not being given equal standing to everyone else, right?
Right.
That is the truth of the matter. And so he spoke from that truth, but he never had hate for others, at least, you know, not from what I have seen and read of him in his own words. Go ahead, Info. You had something to say?
No, I was just going to say that's why I picked when he made his transition away from the Nation of Islam. A lot of people felt that he was most dangerous when he was a part of the nation, when in fact, Malcolm X became more dangerous to the status quo when he broke apart from the nation and began to become an independent, where he was, like I was saying before, where he was traveling to Africa. Matter of fact, he didn't make one pilgrimage to Mecca. He actually, if you go deeper into the history, he was there once before, but they don't tell you about that. Some of the connections that he was making in the continent and within the Middle East, I think was powerful. And I wished he could have lived long enough. I wished he would have lived long enough for everyone to see. I just wonder what would have happened if Malcolm X could have fulfilled all the potential with the movements, the moves that he was making internationally. But that's why they took him out. That's why they had to take him out and use people who look just like him to do so, because that would have really, really empowered Black people in America to really have a different narrative than we have today. I really believe so. It would have had an impact on us heavily. So that's why I chose that particular that particular place, that time that Malcolm X was in. Excuse me there. That's why I chose that. And So he would have to be first person on that council, most definitely.
Most definitely. You just said so many things that just a million things popped in my mind. So let me go with the first one and then to the second one. So the first thing, when you said that is why they use people who looked like him, it is so very often. I just had this conversation with a dear friend the other day when we were talking about our educational experiences. And I was sharing that my experience, especially in higher education, is that I was dealing with so much, what word do I want to use? Pushback with the other Black people there. It was not the Caucasian people there that gave me all of the pushback and concern. And it was the other Black students there. Mind you, there were never many of us, which made it even more ridiculous that we were at odds, right? But it was always the other Black students that would take the time to make up, gossip about each other, that would take the time to try to tear each other down and badmouth each other. It was insane. So, what is your advice for entering any type of higher level space where you're dealing with people who look like you trying to take you down?
Well, I've had those personal experiences. A lot of this stuff comes back to what I had said earlier. There's a certain self hate that Black people have internalized that we have learned. This is all learned behavior. I like to coin the phrase that my man Joe Madison always says at the Black Eagle. He's a radio host. And that is cultural conditioning. We are culturally conditioned in America to see white as superior, Black as inferior. And as a manifestation of that cultural conditioning, we will marginalize, underestimate, and undervalue ourselves as Black people. And we are also marginalized and underestimated and undervalued by the larger society. Out of that self-hate, we put certain people on a pedestal. This is why when Black men or Black women have a business and we're large and in charge and Black people come into our stores, they will sometimes, not all, have a disrespect or say, why is your prices too high? Because we grow up and we don't grow up in an environment where we see Black people in charge of things. So we have a lack of respect, and we don't see that same imagery sometimes in our own families. If we come from families that are dysfunctional, where you have a dysfunctional Black man, a dysfunctional Black woman, then you grow up with a certain lack of respect for people who look just like you. History is laden in them using people who look like us to destroy us by giving them a position, giving them trinkets. And I think it's easy for Black people to do this because of the psychological impact that we've had in this country. We were told at one point in time that we were ugly, we were not pretty. They made caricatures of us back in the 1900s. So we've been inundated with this psychologically to kind of hate one another. We have sometimes no patience with one another. And you see this play out, this psychosis, as I call it, a psychosis. You see this play itself out on YouTube in the way that we talk to each other. We have lack of patience. You saw it yourself when you were on my show, and someone that I had a lot of respect for at one point in time came up and he totally tried to marginalize you and say, well, you need to get you another lawyer, or you need to do this, you need to do that. And I had to bump him off the panel. Or you had Black people who came up and tried to question your credentials or question what it is to be under racketeer charges or these things. You've experienced yourself, I'm sure, where you are a professional. You've gone to school like everyone else. And now Black people want to question your credentials because we don't have any respect for the authority. This is two things we don't have respect for, and it's a sad commentary. And I'm not saying all Black people, but some of us. We don't have respect for Black men in authority, and we do not have respect for Black women in authority. But we have no problem falling in line under the authority of white folks. And that's been facts. And Malcolm X talked about these things as well.
Right. He mentioned those things, and you're absolutely right. I've experienced it just as you have, and I've seen it, which is why, like I said, I was having that conversation with my close friend. And we were sharing experiences and trading off. And I was saying, yeah, I received a lot of positivity from the Caucasian students. And all that I received from the African American students was gossip and foolishness and drama. And we discussed, well, where did that come from, and what's the source of that, and we kind of had the same a conversation along the same lines of what you were saying, and discussing this deep rooted hatred that some people have, and where that comes from. And so, speaking along that lines of being a student and being a professional, and you mentioned, and I couldn't let this go, I jotted it down. You mentioned young information man who was a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed college student at Berkeley. So I have to ask you, if you could speak to him, what would you say?
Well, let me correct one thing that you said. I,
Ah,
I I actually went to San Francisco State University,
okay.
but I spent a lot of time over in Berkeley. I worked in Berkeley. Let me just give you a little background. So basically, when I was in college, I studied biology and science, all that good stuff. I'm a recreational therapist, and one of my minors in psychology. I also have a minor in Black history. And so when I was in Berkeley, I worked out of Berkeley High School, and I was involved in a program bringing disabled and non-disabled children together. And part of my part of graduating is I created a master plan to find out what the community was lacking for programs for kids of this ilk. So I worked in Berkeley. I had a lot of fraternity brothers in Berkeley. I spent a lot of time in Berkeley, but that's the university that I went to. But I have a lot of respect for Berkeley University and those people who graduated from Berkeley. So I just wanted to correct that little piece right there.
No, that's totally fine. But tell us, what would you say to him?
Well, God, so much. I wish, first of all, that all the stuff that I've learned now in my 52 years, I wish I could bottle all of that up into a drink and give it to my younger self, drink that down and gain that knowledge. I wish I could, because one of the things I would tell my younger self is be more patient, take your time, don't be in a rush, take everything in one step at a time, right? And be more critical in your decisions that you make, because bad decisions can leave a lifetime of pain. So, and because, like all young people, we all make our mistakes. We make mistakes in relationships. We make bad decisions in the people that we bring into our life. And I've made plenty of those mistakes. And that's what I mean by, if I knew what I knew now, I think I would be a monster right now if I had that bottled up at 23 years old, or at 24 years old, or 25 years old. But that's why you go through life, you gain wisdom day by day. But I think the most important thing that people can do, and hear me out here, I think, and I'm learning this more and more, listening is more important than talking. We have two ears, but just only one mouth. Listening and listening. And someone that I looked up to is Neely Fuller Jr. This man, I think, is 76 something. He's up there in age. And every time he's been interviewed, you know what he always says in the Empower Esquire TV? When he's asked how he's doing, he says, I'm still learning. I'm still learning, and I'm always learning. What that taught me, because we hear this on YouTube all the time, this is a master teacher. You can't be a master teacher. The reason why there's no such thing as a master teacher, in my opinion, is because learning is circular. It's not linear. Linear speaks to that you have gotten to a point of mastering something and you don't need to learn anything else. No, you are always learning in a circular formation, which means learning never stops. Neely Fuller Jr., very much up there in age, says he's always learning. So therefore, we like to use these cute little cliches, these cute little statements on YouTube where we call people master teachers. There's no such thing. How can you be a master teacher when you don't know everything? You're still learning.
I love that you brought up that master teacher term, because, man, I've been tickled by that term for quite some time. And I say that sarcastically, because who they choose to call a master teacher is a curious thing, is it not, information man? Very
Look, we
rarely
get
is it someone who's actually, certified and educated. Very often, they're calling someone a master teacher, and then you find out the person has no certification, no education. And while I respect that you can teach yourself, I respect that. I also respect those who take the time to garner education.
Right. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe you can be an expert in something, but even people that are so-called experts are still learning. You know why this is a fact? And you probably know this as a professional. In my profession, I have to continue getting CEUs, continuing education, to maintain my certification or license, as many professionals have to do. What does that speak to? You're not a you're not a master teacher. You're still learning. Even if you're a doctor or some professional, your butt you still have to go somewhere and get continued learning, because there's always changes to everything that you think you know. There's always a change. That's why we got to get away from that type of term. See, I'll be honest with you. A lot of our people get these terms from looking at these damn kung fu movies where you have the masters and all. You know, we use these terms on YouTube like they do with the alpha male, beta male stuff. We use these cute little terms to make ourselves stand out amongst, and you don't need to. The bottom line is we're always learning. You're always learning. I'm always learning, and learning never stops. So you can't be a master of something if you got to continue learning.
Absolutely. To your point, yes, attorneys also have continuing education. It's called continuing legal education. We call it CLEs. And yes, you are required to complete CLEs to keep your license up to date, because things are constantly evolving and changing. Not only is there limitless information out there, but that information evolves and changes, and laws evolve and change and things like that. So you have to keep learning. And I want to add to Information Man's point, don't think that because someone is still learning, you cannot learn from them, right? Me and Information Man are not saying that you cannot learn from someone, right? But we're saying that this term master teacher does not actually make sense if you're considering that we live in an ever evolving world. Because
Facts.
that person should be learning just like you. They should be continuing to learn, continuing to grow just like you. And every person has something you can learn from them. My biggest thing this year has been realizing that every single person has something they could teach me. Every person, no matter their station in life, no matter their age. I mean, for example, children. You can learn so much from children, especially as an adult. We get older, we get jaded, we lose our wonder, we lose our imagination, and children do not have that. That leads to my next question, because I know
Mhm.
Info Man is a father. Can you tell us been your biggest lesson in fatherhood?
All goes back to the word again, patience. Fatherhood. I think fatherhood, a lot of guys talk about manhood, right? I really think that your manhood doesn't really blossom until you actually experience fatherhood. That means being responsible for another life. Because through being responsible for another life, you learn about yourself as a man. You learn about your patience. You learn about how loving you can be, how giving you can be. And the most key thing here is sacrifice as a man. Part of being a man is our ability to control some of our emotions and to be able to understand that we live a life in which we do sacrifice. We sacrifice for the betterment of our children, our wife, our families. Okay? Because why? As men, and you hear guys always on YouTube beating their chest about being an alpha male and all this sort of stuff. And well, your job as a man is to provide that protection, that security. And out of doing that comes sacrifice. And when you have a child, a son, a daughter, or kids, you are forever sacrificing. You're getting up every day working to take care of them and make a better life for them. See, if you are just a man who lives by yourself and your only responsibility is for yourself as a man, it doesn't mean that you're not a man. But I just personally believe that when you have a family to take care of or a child, you really blossom into manhood. I think having a child took my maturity to the next level, you see. Because even though I went through a divorce personally, at the end of the day, you realize me and my ex, we were mature in this way. We realized that we had a bigger mission than ourselves, which was raising our daughter to the best of our ability to be successful as a young lady in life. So that made me put aside all the petty BS and all of that, right? So because if I was a single guy with no kid, no responsibility on that level, I could be a little bit more selfish because I have nobody else to think about other than myself. See, so having a family or a child, it really raises the bar and it really challenges you as to it challenges your manhood to a whole degree. A lot of guys who are on this stereotypical stuff, they think their manhood is about how many women they can have, but your manhood is really tested by your hunter gatherer skills, your ability to give that protection, your ability to talk to your child. Are you a man who's too afraid to tell your child just like it is? You're preparing another life, another person in this world to deal with the society that you've been in longer than he or her. It takes a man. Of course, we have to have a mother, but I'm just saying from a male perspective, it takes a man, because men do stabilize families and stabilize communities when we are in the community and in our households. If we are a man. Now, man doesn't mean just someone that can have a baby, impregnate a woman. Any fool can impregnate a woman. Man goes beyond what you do biologically with your privates. And see, I got to be honest here. I don't think I hear anybody in these male spaces on YouTube who claim to be alpha, claim to be this and that. I never have heard anybody say exactly what I just said. Everything is intertwined with with women and what women are not doing for them. Everything is about how much money they have, how high value they are. And I asked a very good question of you and everybody in this chat room. How high value can a man really be if he was to lose all of his money?
Oh, I love that.
That's why high value has to be bigger than just how much money you make. Because see, you could be a guy with a six-figure salary today, lose everything tomorrow, and now would you still be high value if that's the narrative that's being pushed out there? That's why high value is bigger than how much money you make. High value is more about the commitment that you have to your family. It's also about how your society sees you. How does your community view you? Are you respected? Which goes back to what I said earlier about a digital reputation. You see, you've got guys on YouTube who talk a lot of stuff. They pass away tomorrow. Nobody really cares about them. See, I'm going to say this. Don't be fooled by people's subscriber numbers. Because how many of those people are going to show up to your funeral when you're no longer here? That tells you everything you need to know about your digital reputation. See, Empire Esquire, I could pass away tomorrow, and I have a brotherhood that I've been a member of for 33 years, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I could pass away tomorrow, and thousands of brothers across this country who know who I am or don't even have never met me will find out. Brothers from the area that I live in or where I've been at will come out and give me a ceremony in large numbers. Why? Because of the reputation that I carry in the community and with those brothers that know me in my own fraternity. So that's why I kind of laugh when I hear people on the YouTube streets who talk of a brotherhood, and a lot of these guys don't even know what a real brotherhood is because they're basing it on their numbers on their YouTube channel. Let's go a little bit deeper than that.
I agree with you 300%. Let me take a second to shout out some people in the chat, and then I'm going to comment on that. Ooh, I missed quite a few people. Hello to a Jade Stone. Hello to Black Rain. Hello to SC. Hello to Tyrol with OCOV. What's up to OCOV fam? Hello to Empress Goddess. Hello to Black Anonymous. Hello to Naps, formerly the artist known as Nappy Yankee. Hello to everyone.
Appreciate them being here today. Appreciate them. Yes. Appreciate everybody in the chat room.
Appreciate you all. So Information Man said, what is a high value man? Well, listen, you all. Here is what Empowered Esquire thinks the answer is. Okay. And I'm always having this conversation with the other women in my life because I'm always trying to steer younger women away from thinking that high value equals money. It is a conversation that I've been having with younger women for quite some time because it is a dangerous path to think that high value equals money. A high value man is a man of quality. A high value man is a man that has standards for himself and those around him. A high value man is a man that has a moral compass that is unchangeable,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whatever it is he thinks he wants. A high value man is a man who has a healthy sense of self worth and self respect. And a high value man is a man who cherishes women.
Hmm.
That's it. That's a high value man. And guess what? Is financial stability important? Yes. But guess what else? Financial stability comes with those things. If a man
Right.
has self worth and self respect, he has financial stability. You know why? Because he's dedicated himself to creating a life that's stable.
Right. By default, he would have those things because of the way he's carrying himself and what he makes as a priority. And that's very true. I mean, I went to school. I've been around these type of guys, and you absolutely are correct about that. So, but I just wanted to touch on that because that's an issue that's always sort of been one of those issues that really makes me shake my head because, YouTube in particular, people like to coin all type of phrases, and you got to put a value to that phrase and what does it really mean for us. So, but I thank you for breaking it down too.
No problem. I've had practice at it because, as I said, I've been steering young women away from thinking that high value equals money or high value equals title. You know, that doctor equals high value, lawyer equals high value. Y'all, I know some male lawyers that are not high value. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm gonna tell you the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
not a high value man because the self worth, the morals, the standards are not there. They're slimy, schemy, sneezy, right? Sleazy, I meant. So high value is so much more. And if you take the important things, the things that you think are important, like money and financial stability, it's going to come along with the actual things that are important.
Right. I agree.
So, anywho, we're almost about an hour in. I don't want to keep info forever. I know he's busy, he has a life. So what I'm thinking we could do is maybe open up the chat and allow people to come on stage if they want to chop it up with Information Man for a little while, and then we'll let him go. Is that okay, Info?
Yeah, I got no problem with that. That sounds great.
All right, no problem. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and you all come on backstage. In the meantime, I'm going to take this opportunity to go through my panel rules. For those of you who know, I was not excited about this, but I had to create panel rules. And we now go through them before we have the panel, right? So here's my lovely little illustration. You see Lady Justice. Here are the rules for appearing on the esteemed EE panel. First, no profanity, right? If it slips, but please, no profanity. Second, no yelling. Third, no negativity. Okay, so do not come up here with negative opinions about Infoman or me or anyone else because that's not what we're doing. Fourth, no name dropping. Okay, so please do not come up here and drop a name of someone that you're beefing with in the, I don't know, Paw Patrol sector of YouTube and summon that person over here. We're not doing that. Okay, we're not doing that. So, yes, anyone who would like to come and join us, you are welcome to do so. Hello to Josephine. And I think, hello
Yeah,
to
Josephine. Let me say hi to Josephine as well. She's a mod on my channel. Let me say hi to Empress Goddess. She's a mod on my channel as well. And everybody that's come over, I really appreciate. I really appreciate everybody who's come over. I kind of like these interviews because usually I would go live today, but now I can kind of relax and just kind of let you take over here, and I can just answer questions anybody has. So I like it.
I love it. I love this content. And this is the content that I'm going to continue to create. We're going to get into the empowered portion of my name. And we're going to really merge into, I won't take down my legal stuff, but
Hmm.
you guys, there are plenty of attorneys here on YouTube that break down pop culture cases. You can find that, right? So I'm going to now stick with my passion, which is empowerment and motivation. And we're going to merge more into that. I think I do want to add some legal Q&A, which I'll continue to do because I feel called to be a safe space where people can come and ask legal questions, genuine legal
Yeah.
questions. But
Right.
as far as a lot of the pop culture and celebrity stuff, I do not think we'll be doing much of that. We'll be doing a lot of motivational content. And this has been inspired. This has been a long time coming. It's been inspired by my personal growth, but also by a lot of little side comments I've received where I realize, you guys, sometimes we get comments from people that we think are hurtful, but really it's divine redirection.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're being redirected. And so I've gotten some comments lately from people in my life. And initially it hurt my feelings. And I realized, this is redirection, because if I was doing what I said I came here to do, then they wouldn't be able to make those comments. Right.
Right.
So we're gonna stick with the plan. Hello to Christopher Quintero. Go ahead, info.
No, I was just gonna say, you got to have thick skin on YouTube. You're gonna have lots of critics. You're gonna always find someone who either doesn't like you or like what you have to say. And I've gotten past all of that. I really don't concern myself with it too much because I get so much positive feedback from people, and that powers me and infuse me. And I tell my audience all the time that I can't do what I'm doing without them, because whenever I create content, I do personally think about the audience in mind. And I agree with you. Sometimes you can do certain pop culture topics, and that gets a lot of people over. And that's why I was telling you before we went live that I try to balance things out on my channel. I'll give people some educational stuff, some commentary on certain issues, maybe a little pop culture in there every now and then. But then I bring in guest speakers like yourself to kind of like change things up a little bit and bring people who are bringing quality that can benefit people. So there's a guy that I do some videos with by the name of Ray Alexander, and we did a video together where we were talking about be very wary of these tech colleges. And we did a whole 2 hour, 3 hour video on that. And that was great because we really were giving some people some heads up on some things that were happening in this area. And when we also did a video about how black people need to go into semiconductor microchipping, how that industry is big, but it doesn't have enough of our people in it, and it's not enough people that are doing it in general, and that's an area that you might want to consider going into as a profession. Pays well, and there's not a lot of people in it, believe it or not. So those types of content is helpful because it's providing something that someone can do right now. And I just hope that maybe if you keep doing this type of content, people will appreciate it and continue to support you.
Thank you for that info. And I agree with you. I agree with you. And Empress said, rejection is protection. And yes, yes. And that is a good topic, Tone Bella. And it's something that I've been discussing in my private life. And I think I may bring it to YouTube. I think to merge into the motivational space, a lot of these conversations that I have privately, I'm going to bring them. I'm going to package them for public consumption, of course, and then
Mm-hmm.
bring them to this channel. Yes, rejection is protection, which is why I said, those things that initially I took a certain way, I realized what they are. Sometimes you go into a certain space or you try to do certain things and you feel like you've been rejected, and really it's just for your redirection. It's to protect you from a certain type of crowd, a certain type of energy. When I think about
Mm-hmm.
the energy in those celebrity gossip spaces, the energy in those pop culture hot top, that space, that energy can be really, really toxic. And that's why, as Information Man said, it's important to have the balance. But also, for some people, it just means that maybe that's just not your space. And that sometimes if you enter that space and it doesn't feel right, that feeling of kind of, oh, this is not, I'm being kind of rejected in this space, it might be to protect you from that. And so my
Right.
thing in doing those pop culture cases was I really want to just teach the law, right? But I
Hmm.
would find that when I entered those spaces teaching the law, something that a lot of other attorneys do, I didn't really feel like I was being received in a certain way, right? And it doesn't make sense when you think about it in general because a lot of attorneys do it. But again, when you think about it from the conversation we're having with the protection and redirection, now I know why, right? Because that's not the space that I am meant to be in. Hence
Right.
why the reception isn't necessarily what you would think.
Right. You got to go with what makes you feel comfortable. You got to go with where your spirit takes you. And if this is the kind of content that you're really passionate about, that means you're going to put a lot more energy into it. You're going to break things down a little bit better. So stick with it, you know. And there's always an audience out there for what we do. You just have to be, you'll be surprised. And the type of content that you do can kind of shape the kind of audience that you have. But I got to tell you, you know, even when you deal with kind of rough topics, I deal with some pretty tough topics on my channel. It's just the make of the people that you have as mods, people that you have in your chat room. When you lay down the rules as to how you want your chat room to operate, like on my channel, I always tell people to be respectful. I always tell people if people have a difference of opinion, let them have a different opinion as long as they're not nasty. And when they're nasty, then you get them out of there. So I pride myself on having a chat room as of late where people can come and express themselves. And then when they just get unruly, we get them out of there. We don't even give them much attention. And and that's what I wanted. I want my channel to be a place where people are not afraid to come over and be in the chat room and participate. And that they feel that they can, you know, and I don't have a problem with people who disagree with me. You know, I'll read their comments, and if they disagree with me, and if I can rebut what they say, I'll do it in a respectful manner. If what they're saying makes facts, I will acknowledge that what they're saying is facts, you know. And I think that makes it more inviting to people to say, hey, you know, we can go over to Info Man and we can have opinions, even if it may be different from the opinion or what he's saying. And so it's all about educating one another and learning from one another. And that's kind of the atmosphere that I try to create on my at least on my first channel. And I kind of like it that way.
I agree with you. I like the atmosphere on all of your channels, and I do think that people are permitted to have opinions that differ, and to have that open dialogue. And I think you're right. When you do something that you're passionate about and you're consistent with it, you grow a community of people that support that. Even here on this channel, I've grown organically, totally organically. You guys notice there's no Instagram attached to this. This is just YouTube, totally organically, right? I've grown a community of people that are so positive, so supportive. We don't really have like mess and foolishness on here. And when we do, which is rare, it's usually someone who's like not subscribed.
Right.
Just kind of, popped up out of nowhere with a bunch of craziness. And so don't get me wrong. I am 300% appreciative and in awe of what we've done here. And any merging or growth or stretching that we do is not to nullify the growth that we've had already. It's just to honor the authenticity of me growing and evolving as a person. That's it.
Right. You just have to keep growing. You learn, as we were saying earlier before, you never stop learning. You evolve as a content creator. You evolve as a person in your own personal life. And you bring that to bear when you are engaging with people on these social media platforms. And that's why it's good that you're doing what you're doing, because this is part of your digital imprint on the YouTube street. See, people are going to remember you and your reputation for the type of quality of content that you put out, and having these kind of discussions is very important. So, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you for being here. Well, listen, we don't have anybody backstage. So
It's
what I was
okay.
yeah, I mean, listen, that's totally fine. I was
Sometimes people just want to listen. They may not be
yeah.
up to like coming on the panel, and I get that. But we have to do it again sometimes. And I definitely got to get you over to my channel based to talk about you as well and what you're trying to do on this channel with the changes that you're making and what have you. So we'll do that very soon, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, information man. I appreciate you being here. I mean, this has been absolutely an amazing conversation. And it has been for me an experience to hear your insight. And I love being able to have these conversations where we just kind of flow and we talk about life and we talk about things that we all face and that we all experience. So, with that being said, thank you so much to Information Man for being here. This has been episode 2 of Be Empowered. Oh wait,
Maybe somebody's coming up.
we just had someone join us. So
The little dink sound.
I know we just had. So we'll allow this one person to come on up, and then after that, we'll let Info Man, can you stay?
Yeah, I can stay for a little bit.
Okay, we'll let this one person come up, and then we'll let him go. All right, welcoming to the panel.
What's up, y'all?
Thank you.
Nappy Yankee,
Yeah,
what's going on, man? Good to
what's
see
going
you.
on? You caught y'all while I'm working out, but I just wanted to get this one word in. While can y'all hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. We know you. I can tell you in a gym or something, but I can hear
Yeah,
you.
I'm in the gym, but yeah, I just wanted to say one thing about just the subject matter and like the content and everything. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that you're right when you're talking about how you have to be true to yourself as far as some of the subjects you want to take, because sometimes we get kind of we get what is a good word I can use, traffic envy, or kind of like click envy, you know what I mean?
Right.
So when you see somebody who gets like 9 or 10 or 15,000 hits, and you're scraping for 200, you're like, dang man, I mean. But I'll say this: uh, if you stick with it, and as you grow, you got to look at. Sometimes you got to look at the membership. I know you say the membership or the subs don't matter, but look at the subs compared to the hits. And I've been on here long enough to tell what channels are real. All right, based on that, and what channels are people buying subs and all that other stuff. Like, one of the best panels that I had was when I did that review of that video about is prison, better for black people. And you were on that panel, and another guy, let's see, and Identity Withheld was on the panel,
Yes, I remember
and
that.
yeah, and another brother was on the panel as well, a lawyer who is a very big supporter of my channel as well, and we had it was a very informative platform, but it didn't get that many hits. And I'm just like, okay, but again, it was something that if you do it well enough, and it's really about the production too, which I'm trying to work on myself.
Right.
So
But Nappy Yankee, let me just say this to you, and I said this to the Empower Esquire TV today. I notice whenever you do something from an educational point, because that live that we did together, it had an educational component to it because we were educating people about how the prison system really works.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and I don't want to rag on our people. I'm saying in general, sometimes some of our people, we don't want to hear the educational component. We want to hear the sensationalism. So if we're sensationalizing things a little bit more, people tend to gravitate towards that for whatever reason. But when you now tell the truth in an educational way about what's really going on, some folks sometimes they don't want to hear that part because we're used to hearing the sensation.
Yeah, and some people listen. Like, you learn stuff from other channels too. Like, there's this one sister. She does, she kind of baits people with, which I find nothing wrong with her thumbnail. And sometimes you got to put that time the other educational stuff in, which I'm gonna try to do as well. But again, I think that if you're true to what you're doing, yeah, there are some people who listen. They put a lot of toxic stuff on YouTube, and they're you know They're gonna get the hits. Okay. The other guy, by the way, was Conundrum. By the way, I don't want to leave that dude out. He was up here one time too in Pirate Esquire. He's a lawyer out of Virginia. Very good guy, by the way. He was actually a year ago. He and I were at odds because he's
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, but he's one of my best, and that's another thing I want to say too. All right, I remember somebody sent me a Cash App, and I even screenshot this and saved this, and he said something that was very, very important. And you mentioned this earlier about whether you want to be liked. He sent me a $40 Cash App, and he said, I don't agree with everything that you say, all right, but I like the fact that you stick to your guns, something to that effect. But he told me, he said, I don't, and $40 is significant. But he said, listen, I don't agree with everything and all your takes and everything, but I respect, that you have the courage to do your takes, something that respect. And that is something that, I don't know if you ever got a Cash App like that. Information, man, you've been on here longer than all of us. But when you hear that, and when some people will sit down some people try to cater to, again, the Cash Apps and all that other stuff, which is cool. But when you get it from somebody, or you get people listening who don't even agree with you but respect you, I think that's something that you need, that is more important than, the sheeple. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I've gotten people who have sent me emails from afar, and they've said they appreciate certain topics that I've touched on. So that lets me know personally, when people contact me in that way, that I may be doing some things that are right. And then you got to understand, the thing about YouTube is that this is a word you have to always keep in mind, Nappy Yankee. You never know who's watching you. Don't think that these celebrities and well-known people are not tuning in. They may not be in the chat room, but they're watching. You know why I know this? Because one time I did a video. It was a long time ago. I was doing a topic, and somebody who was involved in putting together the whole West Coast rap scene, I can't think of his name. This guy came popping on my panel.
Really? Bro.
And he broke down how the whole music scene, as far as rap in the West Coast, how it all kind of came together, because he was an architect of it. And he came on my channel.
Bro, let me
out of the blue.
Let me say this. When Kwame Brown, I did a little video on Kwame Brown, like I had to be like 15 minutes, criticizing him. This is the first week that he went viral. And he made a comment on my channel. And I said, holy snap. And I checked, it was him. And he's just like, listen, you basically saying I didn't get what he said, and I've been right about him since the beginning. But yeah, these guys got rabbit ears, man. These guys got rabbit ears. So there are celebrities. There are celebrities. There are people who have folks on the ground. I mean, there are celebrities that have people on the ground. And if something is triggering enough, they're gonna come to you and they're gonna let you know.
True. But this is the most important thing, though, I think, Nappy Yankee. This is especially for the Empower Esquire, with the way she is trying to move in another direction with her content. Let's not forget that there are young people out there that are watching, and you could have a positive or negative impact on them. So that's why I try to stay true to my convictions. So Nappy Yankee and everybody out there, stay true to your convictions, because you have young people listening. And why would we want to whitewash and BS around when we have young people listening, and we want them to get legitimate information, truthful information, but we want to give them something that's real? Because you'll be surprised. And this is why the gender war stuff is dangerous, because we're also teaching young people this is how you should behave as a young man, a young lady, towards each other. This is why I'm so sick of the gender war topics and stuff, because young people are watching us. So you got to think about that too. People are watching you, and they'll be watching you from the time that they're a teen into adulthood, depending on how long you're on here or how long you're on the earth.
Yes, the young folks are watching, and I want to quickly say, first of all, on the issue of content creators, I forgot to do my roundup.
Oh yeah, go do your thing. Do your thing.
That Information Man Show is a content creator. Check him out. You know that Nappy Yankee is a content creator. Check him out. You know that who else did I miss? You know that Black Anonymous is a content creator. Check him out. You know that Gerald Flood is a content creator. Check him out. I hope. Oh, let me see your transcript. Right, I think
Yes.
I've gotten everyone. And
Hmm.
on on the content on the topic of young people, I want to say, when I come onto YouTube and we discuss YouTube and content and what direction am I taking this channel in and all that stuff, that's fine and dandy. But everyone here right now, under the sound of my voice, mentoring young people is about more than YouTube. If the only time
That's
you're
very
ever
true.
doing something in your community is when you're online, you're not doing something in your community. And I know for some of you that might sting, right? But as my southern folks say, a hit dog will holler, right? If you feel hit, it applies. Do something that touches the lives of the youth around you in real life, IRL, you guys.
Yeah.
Infoman and Nappy Yankee mentioned like receiving emails that just kind of encouraged you. I received an email a couple weeks ago from a young woman that I met on the train. Three, 3 or 4 years ago, y'all.
Oh, wow.
She found my email address and emailed me. I was sitting on the train and she came on the train with her resume. And, I could tell she was relatively young. And I found out she was 19. She was like a sophomore. She was looking for a job. And I said, "Do you mind? Can I see that resume?" And she said in the email, she said, "You tore my resume up." She said, "You ripped it
Mm.
to shreds." She said, "But I listened to you and I implemented everything that you recommended. And everyone compliments me on my resume now."
Fantastic.
She
So you
remembered that
encouraged her.
from years ago. I didn't even remember. When I read the email, I thought, wow, wow, how did she even find me? So, yes, the youth are watching us. And it's so important that you get out there, touch and mentor, and really be a part of their lives. Um,
Facts.
Nappy Yankee and Info Man, anything else you want to say before we head out?
I pretty much said everything I wanted to say. Uh, Nappy Yankee.
Yeah, I mean, basically just the little things that I'm kind of learning. Check out Information Man's training on being on YouTube, and again, just try to grow like from the bud. I mean, people like the video I did yesterday on that debacle on Fox Zone. To do stuff like that, I truly believe I truly believe that woman's gonna pay for what she did.
Nappy Yankee, I think you're cutting out, brother. It's kind
So
of fading because you're in the gym.
oh yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh,
You
a
hear me
little
Yeah,
better now?
better. A little
it's a
better.
little
Okay.
Borkish, but it's better
Yeah.
than it was before. It was like you from
All
a
right.
distance before. Go ahead.
Yeah. I said, be patient with this if you want to do this. And like the woman the show I did the expose on yesterday, I truly believe she's gonna
Hmm.
pay for what she did. When you do stuff like that, I think stuff like that is gonna catch up to you. And this is not the first time she did it. And I just think the lesson there is that don't chase the quick views and the drama because it's gonna catch up to you eventually.
That's right. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Empowered Aspire TV. I hope you
Peace,
feel
y'all.
empowered and inspired. We got to sit with the goats today, right? Information Man. Check him out. Information Man Show, Information Man Speaks podcast, and Infor Media. Okay. I
Right.
love you. You bring something unique, something special to this world, to my life, to this channel. And I appreciate you for it. All right. See you all.
Well, I'm about to get off of here, but look,
Go ahead and go.
any advice that you need or anything, you contact me. Anything I can do to help in any way to promote the channel and give you any advice on what you're doing, feel free to contact me anytime. I appreciate you again. Everybody, take care. I'm about to drop off. The Empower Esquire is incredible, and definitely love what you're doing over here. And I most have to say again, I appreciate you 100%. So thank you, my sister. Take care and peace.
Peace info, you guys. We're going to take it on out.